Welcome to Champion Minded, the podcast for those who aim for excellence, not only in the sports arena, but in life. My name is Allistair, author, speaker, mindset and performance coach, and my goal is to help you unleash your unlimited potential and provide you with the tools to achieve greatness. Are you ready to become champion minded? Then let's do this. Welcome to the Champion Minded podcast, or welcome back to it. I'm Allistair, your host. This week coming to you from Kalamazoo, Michigan. And if you're asking where on earth is that, it is around about 3 hours drive from Chicago, which is one of my favorite cities in the United States. Hopefully everything's been going well for you since last time we spoke. There's a lot been going on, obviously a lot of sports, especially over July. We had Wimbledon, of course we had the World Cup soccer, we've had rugby sevens, we've just had a heck of a lot going on, so a lot of time I'm sure spent in front of the TV and watching results. This week I'm going to be sharing with you 10 traits of the incredibly successful. And it doesn't matter what field you might be in business, be it in sports, be it in entertainment. It also doesn't matter what age you are either, and that's something I try to get across here on the Champion Minded podcast is, it really doesn't matter which field you're in or what age you are. Success for your life depends on building those great habits and developing the motivation, the passion. It's about acquiring the discipline, having the right preparation, and of course, the mindset. I always say the mind is everything. Develop the mindset, and then you start to see things change for the better. But 10 things of the incredibly successful, and here we go. Number one, they work hard. I have never met a successful person who was lazy. One of the traits I've really found in successful people is they get up early. They have a game plan to the day. They have structure to the day. They know where they're going. They know what they're doing. They put in the hours. Successful people are not clock watchers. They're not thinking it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and that doesn't matter if it's a project you're working on or an athlete, for example. The best athletes, the best performers are not clock watchers. They do what needs to be done, and they do more. So that's the first one. They work incredibly hard. They're not afraid to roll their sleeves up. They're not afraid to put in the extra work. In fact, if you want to be successful, you have to do extra. You have to put the hours in. One of the words I don't like to use is sacrifice. In the book Champion Minded, I talk about rather you have choices. And it's a choice how you want to create and how you want to live your life. It's not a sacrifice. It's a choice. You get to choose your future. You get to choose your destiny. And that is going to involve a high amount of discipline if you want to lead a successful life. And that involves some tough decisions. I can't tell you how many Christmases, how many birthdays, how many special events away from family I've missed because I've been either working or furthering my career, be it in my athletic career when I used to race professionally, or now in my professional career. So it's a choice. It's not a sacrifice. Nobody's forcing me to do this, but putting in the hard work is what it takes to be successful. There is no other way around it. People that take shortcuts eventually find out that they have to redo it again. If you're going to take shortcuts, you're just going to end up spending double the time to make up for it, to do it properly. So that was the first one. Number two, they stay disciplined. They stay highly disciplined. And here's the thing. When you have purpose, when you have a vision for your life, it's a lot easier to stay motivated. A lot of people ask me all the time, how do you stay motivated? How do you always seem so energetic, inspiring, whatever it may be? And I said, well, I wake up the same as you. I have to give myself a pep talk sometimes. This morning, for example, I had to do an hour run. It was pouring with rain outside, but you know what? Got up, knocked on a fellow coach's door, Damien, this morning, and said, let's go, 1 hour run in the pouring rain. And, it just requires discipline. It requires, again, a choice like we spoke about in the first point. Discipline is freedom. For me, a successful life is having the ability to choose what you want to do with who you want to do it with. And discipline gives you that freedom. I know a majority of the kids I speak to today in colleges, they will eventually want to go into their own companies, their own businesses. They want to work for themselves. I'm very privileged to be in that position, but it took me many, many, many years and lots of hours and hard work to get to this point where I could get up in the morning and decide what I want to do with my day, to have that freedom. But it required an incredibly high level of discipline. Let me tell you one thing about discipline. It's a choice. And the sooner you do it, I wish I knew this earlier. The sooner you do it, and if you're young students out there, you're in college, the sooner you discipline yourself, the quicker you're going to realize freedom in your life. Freedom to choose what you'd like to do, financial freedom, freedom in your time, all these type of things comes from a high level of self-discipline. I can't tell you how many weekends I've had to give up by not going out with friends, by not doing fun things, to stay in and study, to learn, to work on a project, to work on another assignment. That is what it takes. All right, so that's number 2, stay disciplined. Number 3 of the incredibly successful traits is they take consistent action. I think the word consistency is one of the keys to successful people. It's no good just doing it sometimes. Excellence is an all-the-time thing, not just a sometimes thing. And that's why it's so incredibly important to develop your habits. And the more you do that over time, the more consistent you do that over time, the more success you're going to reap. The more those marginal gains of putting in the efforts every single day consistently, even if it feels that you're not getting anywhere, even if you don't see progress, if you keep putting in the steps every single day, eventually success comes to you. Hard work always pays off. In fact, I was speaking to a young kid yesterday in the gym, and he was doing his cooling down routine. He had lost in the tournament, and I asked him how it went, and I said to him, here's the thing. I see you working hard. I've seen this kid in the gym every morning, and I said to him, hard work eventually pays off. Maybe not when you want it, but it eventually pays off. So keep putting it in. And that's been so true, especially in my life as well, be it an athletic career or a coaching career. Sometimes we try and force things. Sometimes we try and push things, and they don't happen, and it makes us frustrated. And I think experience teaches you that if you just stay consistent in your behaviors, in your habits, in your discipline, success eventually comes to you. So that's an incredibly important thing. So number 4 in the traits of the incredibly successful, they believe in themselves. If you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect others to believe in you? Self-belief is probably one of the most important things you can have in life. Self-belief makes you attractive to other people. Not the cockiness self-belief, but an inner calm and inner self-confidence. Self-confidence to me is being able to show your weaknesses, not being afraid to talk about them, showing vulnerability. That is strength for me. Inner self-confidence to me is the ability to put yourself out there, the ability to hold your head up high when things aren't going well. It's because there's a deeper inner self-belief in your abilities. Anything that's been achieved on this earth is possible because somebody else has done it. But you've got to be willing to put in that time. You've got to be willing to put in that discipline. You've got to be willing to build your self-belief. And that is where, and I know anyone who's listened to this podcast a few times will have heard how important self-talk is. Self-belief comes from self-talk. What you say to yourself. The voice that is constantly with you 24 hours, 7 days a week. What is that voice saying to yourself? And it's a skill. Just like any other skill, you have to develop your self-talk. You have to catch yourself in negative moments and say, no, that is not pulling me towards where I want to go. So I can tell you right now, if you want to improve your confidence, if you want to improve your results, if you want to improve your relationships, if you want to improve your financial position, Start with your self-talk. What you say to yourself. What you say to yourself eventually manifests in reality, in life. The most confident people have the most powerful self-talk. I'll say that again and write it down. The most confident people have the most powerful self-talk. It's not a given, it's a skill. The more you practice it, the better you get. Number 5, they stay committed to the process. I can't tell you how many people I see that have great ambitions and goals, and I say, that's fantastic. But, when the going gets tough, then they type a drop the goal or they change the plan. And, it all sounds great. It's exciting writing things down. I can't tell you how many people I know love to write down goals, but nothing ever happens. Or like, for example, this morning, training for a marathon. It's raining outside. It's cold outside. It's miserable. What's your choice? Stay in bed or get out and do it? Because here's the thing. As an athlete, I used to train in any weather. Give me rain, sun, snow, hail. I don't care. You know why? Because I couldn't determine what the weather was going to be on World Championships Day. I used to race triathlon and duathlon, an outdoor sport. And one of my best races and opportunities came in horrendous weather in the World Championships in 2002 in Rimini, Italy, where I finished 6th. And it was pouring with rain. It was cold. It was miserable. I remember my teammates complaining at breakfast. I remember the guys at the start line complaining. And I was just standing there thinking, this is the best thing that could have happened to me. I've trained for this. I've prepared for this. I'm mentally ready for this. And I took my opportunity and finished in the top 10 in the world in my age group in the World Championships. Because of mindset, because of attitude. I can tell you there was a lot faster athletes in that race than me, but because of my mindset and my attitude and me embracing the conditions, the adversity, I love it when people complain about conditions and weather and whatever it may be. It's just like, oh, bring it, because that is where exactly the champion-minded get their advantage. What type of person are you? Are you one that complains, that joins the group, that feels good about it? Or do you quietly say to yourself, this is my opportunity today? The wind, the sun in your eyes, the poor conditions, the poor playing conditions, whatever it may be. It's opportunity time. You can either make excuses or complain about it, or you can say, this is my time. This is my opportunity. So they stay committed to the process. They put in the work every day, and that's very much linked to consistency. Consistency every day and trusting the process. How many times do I see players or athletes in different sports chop and change coaches the minute they have 2 or 3 bad results? Parents out there, is that one of you? You get a little bit nervous after 3 or 4 bad results and it's time to change the whole environment and the coaching circle? That's something to consider. That only causes instability. It causes lack of confidence, is when you're chopping and changing things all the time. Number 6 in traits of the incredibly successful is that they hold solid values. They know what they stand for. They say, stand for something or you're full for anything. I have a set of values for my life, the way I live. In my first book, 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach, I talk about the very first chapter being set your standards. It all starts with your standards. The standard you set for your life, what you accept and what you don't accept in your life. One of the things where I draw the line is disrespect. I understand that working with high-profile athletes, it can be a little bit temperamental, and it's a tough industry. But disrespect is the number one thing for me, where I've walked away from 1 or 2 good projects or good athletes, or turned down some good athletes. In fact, Olympic athletes and world champions, because of just disrespect. So, that is important for me, is I know my values. I try and live by my values. When I have to make tough decisions, and here, let me get this out. I've made some big mistakes. I don't get everything right. I make mistakes every day. I have some things I regret. However, I just try and wake up every day and try to be better than the day before. And that is by living by my values. Sometimes it's easy to make the easy choice, or a choice that's going to please others, especially if you're a coach out there, maybe a coach of a college. It's easy to make a choice that's going to please others, but is it the right choice? Is it going along with your values? Is it going along with what you know is right? Make the right choice. Don't make the easy choice. Number 7, they have incredibly high standards. They set their standards, and we just spoke about that in the previous one. With it all starts with your standards. Do you have a set of standards for the way you live? Do you have a set of standards for the workplace? If you're a coach, do you have a set of standards for your athletes? And more importantly, do you enforce those? Do you follow those? The greatest example is always going to be your actions. It's not going to be your words. Your people, if you're a leader, if you're a coach, whatever it may be, your people are watching you every single day. They might hear some of your words, but I can tell you one thing: they're watching and remembering all of your actions. And that's one of the responsibilities of being a leader and a coach. And of course, one of the qualities of incredibly successful people is having high standards and being accountable to them. Are you accountable to the standards you have set? Hey, it's not easy. I get it. There's challenges every day. There's frustrations every day. One of the books I've been reading, which I highly recommend to you, is Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Burberry. A great book which just helps us in this particular area of dealing with our emotions and trying to just live better and function better, not only within ourselves but with other people. So have high standards. Number 8 of incredibly successful people is that they surround themselves with winners. Jim Rohn has one of the best quotes out there by saying, you become the 5 people you surround yourself with. It doesn't matter where you are. Are you in school, high school, college, in the workplace, your friend, whatever it is? Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with. Those are the people you're becoming. You, in a way, start to become their values. You start to become their words. You start to become their thoughts. You even start to dress like them. You even start to frequent the same places and use the same slang and so on. So is that the person you want to become? Who is the person you want to become in 5 years? I was having a conversation yesterday with a coach, and I believe, and I talk about this in my workshops, is that I believe, looking back, that you metamorphosize, you change every 5 years, especially if you're a lifelong learner. Think about this. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago, right? And here's the thing. In 5 years' time, you're not going to be the same person you were today because of the things, because of the things you've read, the people you've surrounded yourself, the things you've watched, the social media you've followed. All these things determine the person you become, the things you read, the podcasts you listen to. The more you learn, the more you change. And if I look back at 5 years ago, I have changed a heck of a lot. I'm glad I'm not that person I was 5 years ago. And I'll tell you one thing, I sure hope I'm not the person I am today in 5 years' time because of wanting to be a lifelong learner, because of wanting to get up and learn. So that was number 8. Number 9, they build long-lasting relationships. They nurture relationships. And this requires effort. This requires you having a routine, which I have in the morning. It's one of my 20 minutes of thoughtfulness, of thinking of others, where I get to start my day. I have a morning routine, which is one of the most important things you can have to your day, is a morning routine. It doesn't matter if it's 20 minutes or 2 hours. Have a morning routine for yourself. And one of those 20 minutes in my morning routine is thinking about others. Sending a message to someone that's maybe competing that day, someone that's writing an exam, somebody that's ill, somebody in my family, whoever it may be, is that I'm thinking about them, or I'm sending them a good luck message. But I'm nurturing relationships. That is incredibly important. This attitude of, well, they haven't spoken to me in 6 months, or they never got back to me and last time I contacted them. Life is too short for those type of internal dialects with yourself. That's just ego talking. Send them another message. Say, hey, just checking in to see how you're doing. Maybe you missed my last message or my last call. I admit it. I've declined calls as well, or forgot to get back to people with messages. And, it wasn't intentional in some of the cases. Sometimes it was. But Hey, life happens. We're not in the mood. It doesn't matter how motivated, positive you are. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to speak to that particular person, and that's fine. One of the most liberating things is you being able to say no. Saying no to people and not always yes. In fact, it was something that burned me out the first time, and I talk about it in my first book, 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach, is not wanting to let people down. Never saying no. And I had to learn to say no, to put myself first. As selfish as that sounds, I have to put myself first. I have to lead myself first. Energy is everything to me. It's everything. If I don't have energy, I can't live a productive life. If I don't have energy, I can't inspire others. I can't live my purpose. My purpose is to inspire others, to inspire themselves. And hopefully by inspiring themselves, they inspire others. Do you get it? That chain reaction? But if I don't have energy, I can't go and travel 3-4 times a month. I look at my schedule and I'm in Cincinnati next week. I'm in New York the following week. Wake Forest. I'm in Australia in September. I'm in Europe in October. I need energy. I have to take care of that. I have to protect that energy. Number 10, final one in our traits of the incredibly successful people. They stay grateful. Gratitude is an attitude. In fact, it's the first thing I start every single day with is gratitude. I try and think of at least 2 things while I'm still lying in bed. And it's become such a habit that when I open my eyes, it's the first thing I think of, gratitude. Thank you for that great night's sleep, this comfortable bed, the opportunity to work with people I want to work with today or to associate with, or the health I have. It doesn't matter what it is. The dinner I had last night, or the opportunity to speak to a certain person today. I'm grateful for that. Changing your attitude to gratitude and appreciation is where it really is a huge game changer, especially in my life as well. Instead of expectation, focus on appreciation and gratitude. And, that is where I believe the foundation of not just more success happening in my life, and of course we all describe success differently. What success is to me is maybe something to you, but more importantly, happiness. And I think it's a great way to finish this podcast today, is we're all on a mission for happiness. And for many, many years, I wasn't happy. I maybe looked at it on the outside and maybe looked like I had everything that would maybe look successful, but I wasn't happy. I was just continually discontent. And until I defined what happiness meant to me and what that looked like, I was able to go on that journey. And through reading a lot of books and through self-discovery, helped me discover what happiness is. And it's a beautiful place. And some people never discover that. Now, again, getting back to the start of this podcast, are you happy? There's a great graph, or there's a great diagram that goes, that asks, are you happy? And there's 2 lines. One line goes to yes. Okay, keep doing what you're doing. The one line goes to no. Then change something. What is the biggest thing you need to change in your life to pull you towards happiness? Maybe it's a few things. Maybe there's a few changes that need to happen in your life. Are you going to let those carry on? Are you going to let those just manifest? Or are you going to take a stand? I've had to take one or 2 very, very important, difficult, tough decisions in my life to find happiness. And, life involves that. Life involves tough decisions. But when you get to that place, I don't believe you can be successful without being happy. I don't care how much money you have, what car you drive, what status you have. You're the CEO of the biggest company in Chicago. I don't care. Happiness is success. But you've got to discover what happiness and success is to you. So that's it for this week. Thanks so much again for joining me on the Champion Minded podcast. If you enjoyed this one, guys, I'd really appreciate it if you could share it. It's on iTunes. Please leave a review. Thank you so much to all of you who have made the effort to do that. I greatly appreciate it. My books, Champion Minded and 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach. I had a few emails of asking me where those books were available. If you're in the United States, they're on alistairmccaw.com and, of course, Amazon. And, of course, Amazon in Europe. In Australia, I believe they're on Booktopia and New Zealand. So those are the areas where you can get the books. To stay connected on social media, I'm on Twitter at Allistair McCaw, Facebook, McCaw Method, and Instagram, Be Champion Minded. So till next time, guys, stay champion minded.